Next up is the session, Repositioning for Impact, a recruiter's lens on career progression.
Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well. Welcome to BTF 2025. I hope you can hear me well. This is my first time using this headphones thing, so I'm hoping everything picks up beautifully. And welcome to our session. So I am Arsima Fezahazian, the founder and CEO of Black Recruiters Network. We are a community network of Black professionals in recruitment and talent acquisition. And alongside that, I'm also a tech recruiter operating in the Python and tech space, supporting startups and scale-ups build out their engineering and data teams. So with me today, we have our lovely panelists. They are members of the Black Recruiters Network, and I'll let them introduce themselves. So I'll start with Dominic here next to me. Dom?
Hi, morning everyone. My name's Dominic. I'm a recruiter, been in the business for almost 13 years now. I work at a company called DigitalOcean. It's a cloud infrastructure business, a global company. My background really has been a mix of agency and also in-house, so hopefully I can give people information that's helpful to them no matter where they are in their journey.
Morning everyone, my name's Ben. I've been in recruitment for 8 years now, probably 7 years too long. But yeah, I'm here today to give you a bit of an insight into how you can progress your career essentially. In terms of my background, I was agency for 7 years, supported a lot of the kind of SMBs, enterprise and scale-up companies, predominantly doing tech, but I've also recently done sales and marketing as well, so I can give you a bit of an overview on a more generic standpoint.
Perfect, thank you guys. So just a quick fun fact, this is actually our third time doing a BTF stage. Back in 2023, we did this conversation from the lens of kind of getting into tech, and then 2024 was about navigating tech. And this year, we want to talk about career progression, what it takes and what it looks like from our perspective when people are coming in and looking for those mid-level, senior-level roles, and how we assess it. So to start with, what I wanted to touch on from both of you is, you know, from company to company, it can kind of vary what a mid-level or senior role sort of looks like. So I wanted to say, ask you guys, what's your, I guess, definition? What do you look for when we're talking about senior hires?
So I'll take the question first from the mid-level and then also the transition to senior. So normally when I'm looking for someone mid-level, we're hiring for potential. So do you have the fundamentals, the knowledge, just to kind of get your foot in the door and understand the role? We expect people to be led by more senior people, need instruction. But what we're really hiring for is the soft skills. Are you very curious? Are you willing to learn? Are you collaborative and communicative with the rest of your team and potentially other people outside of your team? As long as you have those sorts of soft qualities, it's really easy to teach people. I think technology changes, and what we want is people who are adaptable and who can grow with the business and be flexible with the business needs. I think when you transition into a senior engineer, a lot of what you do more is leading the team, unblocking the more junior engineers, being a bit more independent in your work, being somebody who can work independently or lead the team is something that we look for a little bit more. So I would say that's the kind of big difference between the juniors and the more senior people.
Yeah, I think to echo on that point, when it comes to years of experience, typically that's like the main metric that we'll look at. Typically, if you're looking at mid-level, 3 to 5 years tend to be kind of the rule of thumb. Senior, 5+ years of experience. And then, like you said, the characteristics in terms of what skills can you actually bring to the table. More so at mid-level, you're probably more of an IC, individual contributor, looking at the characteristics that you can bring and what value you can add. When you then step into the senior level, it's then more focused on your technical ability in terms of, right, how hands-on are you? Some of that then changes to being a little more hands-off in terms of focusing on leadership, like you mentioned, and really kind of attributing more to your mentorship. So I think that's the things that we look for most when we're hiring as well.
Amazing. And what I would say, so with that as well, like, you know, in terms of the market where, you know, it's kind of been going through it, there's been a lot of changes in terms of the technology as well. And there's probably quite a few mid-level, senior level candidates on the market that looking at next opportunities. I guess, how would you kind of, you know, let them know like how best to position themselves for like those types of roles at the moment, given that there's been quite a change in the tech stack as well?
Good question. I think a lot of it comes down to visibility in terms of how visible you are. I do a lot when it comes to employer branding, particularly for myself and for the clients that I work with, Cheeto now being one of them. I think if I look at how I've helped my career from when I first started, just being a recruiter and then kind of helping more people in the tech space, a lot of that is making yourself visible, showcasing what you've actually done. Your CV is a great standpoint, but again, it's just buzzwords. You put your CV through, it gets to an ATS system. If all the buzzwords are there, you get a scoring system. We look past the CV, we actually want to see you. I always look at people's LinkedIn. What have you done? What have you achieved? What are your aspirations? What are you looking to do? I think making yourself as visible on LinkedIn is definitely the best way. Being engaged in different communities. I run a community called Black Leaders in Tech. Again, I started that just off the cuff, looking at trying to solve a problem where there's a lack of black leaders in tech. How can we make something where we look at the struggles that people face, look at the solutions that people want to see being implemented, and then the success stories. You can do that when you're in tech, actually working as well. You can join different communities, make yourself be visible and be part of those journeys. I think visibility has definitely got to be the key for that.
It's a great answer. So Ben's taken the external, I'll probably take it a little bit more internal. If you are inside a company, you want to grow your career within a business, visibility is a key thing. I think making sure that you have sponsors. You know, when anyone goes for a promotion, there's going to be a few people that need to sign off that agree that, hey, I've seen X, Y, and Z person, what they've brought, what they've done, and the value that they've added. So, you know, feel free to mentor more juniors, feel free to put your hands up for projects, maybe stretch assignments that might give you that bit of extra visibility, that might put you in the room with people outside of your team that you haven't worked with previously. I think always look for the impact, the value, tie your actions and activities back to how is this going to help the customers, how is it going to impact the business in a positive way, and make sure that you're working with any leaders and any sponsors that you have to make sure that those things are aligned to business goals.
And just to add on that in terms of the leadership side as well and kind of taking on the responsibilities, because I know, Dom, when we was kind of preparing for this, you've been talking about taking on a bit more sort of like leadership in the hands of like the AI and bringing in the tech tools. So I guess what's that journey been like for you, and how do you see that maybe using someone like that to position yourself for even your own career progression?
That's a great question. For me, it ties something that I'm really passionate about with a need to help my team develop and be ready for the future. So enabling the team is something that nobody really asked me to do, but I've tied one of my passions to a need for us to position ourselves as a recruitment team that's prepared for anything that comes in the future. So even finding small areas of efficiencies, anything that can make the day-to-day experience of our recruiters a little bit easier is something that I've tried to work on. From that perspective, I've taken the crawl, walk, run. So I start off with small things, you know, get some feedback from the rest of the team, get some feedback from the leadership, and then move on to something that could be a little bit more impactful.
And Ben, from your side with the BLIT community, the Black Leaders in Tech, I guess what has been some of the takeaways as some of their challenges, and like how have you and the team been supporting them in kind of navigating that as well?
Yeah, I think some of the main challenges really stem down to one, being seen. I think a lot of roles that you get to at leadership level is based on who you know, not necessarily what you know, who can kind of give you the avenue to get in. A lot of those roles aren't typically advertised just due to the cost. So you need to be having people in those markets, like you said, sponsors that can navigate you into those spaces. I think one of the things I try and really get across to people is the difference between being successful and being significant. For me, successful is kind of what you do in your own career, how you really push yourself. Significance is the impact that you have with the people that are around you. In terms of having success, I can say, right, I've done, say, 10 hires this quarter, for example. That's my success. My significance is, out of those people that I've hired, how have I helped them get to that place alongside the rest of my team? How have I supported them getting to where they want to get to? That's where you start to see people that have leadership characteristics and people that can actually then go on and do those jobs. So I think it's trying to establish the difference between being successful and then being significant, and really trying to have a blend of both.
And with that journey as well, I guess, I think what I'm curious to know with the journey of like moving into leadership, and something that has come up on our stand here today, is people want to move into leadership, but they also want to pivot their careers as well. They don't want to be a leader in their current space, but in something different. So how, I guess, can they leverage where they are now to still become that leader, but maybe navigating it as well as a pivot?
So I think any leadership qualities, they tend to have overlap between roles. I think when you're being a leader, when I'm assessing anyone who's a leader, I'm looking for the impact they can make on the team, how they can enable their team, how they can understand the domain, but also, you know, again, link the business goals to what the team's doing and make sure they're helping people grow. Are they good people leaders? Are they supporting their team from a personal and professional perspective? So I think all of those things are transferable. And it's something that, again, if you've got sponsorship, if you take the time to go and understand the new space that you're trying to work in, find out how your key skills and current skills are maybe a differentiator to the rest of the market in that space, because that can also be an advantage. I think, that makes it a bit easier to pivot.
Yeah, I think just you took the words out my mouth. Not too much more I can add to that at that point.
Perfect. And what I was going to say, so in this, we're in this AI world, and then there's going to be the leaders that want to kind of take the lead on that. But I guess for someone maybe looking to see that that's their next step they want to take, and they're assessing their skills, what they've currently got and where they're missing, I guess what steps should they take, or maybe who could they connect with to kind of fill that gap or make a plan out of it?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think one of the things that I try and advise to people all the time when they're looking to get into leadership is have mentors. Mentorship is such a key thing. When you can surround yourself within a network, a community, people that have been there, done it, kind of worn the t-shirt, that's where you get to really kind of leverage that and see what people have done. Again, everyone's journey is going to be different in terms of the skills that they've got, the characteristics, the personality, type of environment that they're in. But you can really pinpoint yourself with people that are on a similar journey to yourself, people that have been there, done it. Really surround yourself with them and just learn. I think just be a sponge, absorb as much information as you can. The best leaders are the people that really put themselves for everybody else, and those are the people that you can really learn from and become similar in terms of your environment.
And I think the best thing to do is really trust yourself. You know your space better than anybody else. So where are the gaps? What are the things that you've seen and experienced that you think, hey, I could probably do that a little bit better? Lean into those things, work on those things, and I'm sure you'll find some space.
And I was going to say, so I know, Ben, you were saying kind of regarding the B-Lit, like the visibility stuff, right? But I guess one part that I see sometimes where, a lot of the times with the application process, people are kind of putting their CVs and their LinkedIn profiles. And then when they come into the interviews, it's very much about like selling yourself and telling the story. And I think there's a real difference between mid and senior and just the experienced hires of how that story is told. So I guess I'm curious, what makes a good story to sell yourself into a leadership role?
I think for me, again, it goes back to the impact that you've had. Again, being a mid-level, your impact is not expected to be as high based on kind of the responsibilities that you probably have in your role. It's more of an IC role. When you make that transition into the senior side, we're then looking at the characteristics that you have, the other attributes that you can really bring to the table. So for me, I'm looking at people that are confident, people that have really shown the value that they've added and really supported the wider business in terms of their goals, because the more you progress into leadership, the less it becomes about you as an individual, more about your team, the wider business goals, and tapping into that. So any examples that you can use to showcase what you've done to, one, get yourself to that level, but supported those around you, that's what I look at and say, right, do you know what, you've got those skills, you've got the capability, you've got the potential to go into that senior role. And again, it could be a senior role for now, it could be a senior role for 6 months' time, but we've had that conversation early on. You showed me that, do you know what, I could be a leader in your business. This is the value that I can add within X, Y, Z perspective. So for me, it's making sure in your storytelling, you're as confident as you can be with clear examples to showcase the value that you can add.
I think when you're working at the more mid-level, I expect people's experience in the story they tell to be a little bit more functional. I did A thing and then B thing happen at the end of it. I think as you move through the levels to more senior and even into executive, it's more about how you influence, how you're more strategic. The scale of your impact is much larger. So it's how you may have affected a product or changed an organization or you've done a transformation. And I think the storytelling then becomes about the influence that you've had, how you've shifted things and improved things or maybe achieved something for your team and for the company as a whole.
And with that storytelling part, and I know we've kind of mentioned using LinkedIn as a platform to do that, but I guess, do you think there's a real benefit in using LinkedIn as a way to kind of tell the story? Because there's only so much you can tell, like what you've done internally in a business. So I guess how other way can you really use LinkedIn to showcase that leadership if it's not kind of, talking about the day-to-day if it's not allowed? And also, is it a real benefit? Like, do you kind of go from the CV to the LinkedIn and be like, okay, maybe they could be, that you see the potential just from their profile?
Yeah, good question. I think with LinkedIn it's difficult in the sense that there's only so much information you can really put on. Some people are a bit crafty, they make their CV their LinkedIn, their LinkedIn their CV. I think when it comes down to actually interviewing, that's where you can really get your story across. But before you can get an interview, your profile has to be received well. So for me, I will look at your LinkedIn. First thing I do is look at the companies you've worked for, the experience that you've had, what you've actually detailed down. Not so much your job description. I don't really care what you've done as a job description because that's very generic. I'm looking for the impact that you've had, your key achievements, any metrics that you've hit, for example. And then one of the things that I try and look for particularly is recommendations. I think when people can attest to your quality, that in itself stands a long way. That was something that I tried to do when I first started. I had 0 recommendations. I think I'm near 75 now, still trying to get to 100. But it's more a case of people talking on your behalf. That shows the impact that you've had, the significance that you've had, as well as the success. So for me, when it comes down to that, I would try and get other people to talk on my behalf in terms of what I've done. And again, it don't have to be a whole paragraph of, oh, he was great, he done this, X, Y, Z. It's just a short description of what you've done and how you've benefited them in that role. And that really lands well. Good people know good people. So when you can look at that, that helps.
Yeah, I agree. I check everybody's LinkedIn profile. And I think if you're looking to make a difference, there's other things that you can do no matter where you sit in the tech space. I think, if you're an engineer and you have a GitHub, that's great. Put some things on it. I look at people's open source projects. If you're a designer and you have a Behance or another type of place where you host your portfolio, make sure those things are visible so we can see them. If you write blogs or anything like that, have a website, put those things up as well, because all of these things show us what you've been doing outside of the kind of day job. It shows us a little bit more about who you are as a person, your interests. And there's been many occasions when I've hired people, mainly because of their external interest that shows that they've got a passion and a real interest in the industry and the market that they're in.
I think that's always a key one, because it's always the case where all of your experience, especially as you continue your career, it doesn't have to come from your job. It can come from outside interest, but it's just about positioning that. And even for myself, I'm not going to lie, I'm terrible with recommendations. My LinkedIn page, as good as I think it looks, the recommendations is next to none, which is working on. And also, I will be doing a blog, just to let you know. It's not out yet, but it's coming. And I guess I was going to ask, so, we're talking about kind of moving into leadership. I don't think we can really have the conversation without really addressing the lack of diversity in leadership. And I think many people are always wondering, what the biases are, what are they going to be facing, or what, even just maybe thinking about it for themselves. But I guess, maybe from what you guys have seen and from your experience, what sort of challenges do you tend to see people have at leadership? How have they overcame it, and just general maybe insights and advice as well?
Yeah, I think the first one comes down to visibility. When you don't see enough people that look like you or have a similar background in those positions, you start to question if they actually exist. Can I actually get into those spaces? So a lot of it is putting yourself in positions where you can have access to those roles. Again, that was one of the reasons why we set up the BLIT community, essentially to make sure that as a network, as a organization, we can provide a space where we have people that are in those positions already that can give back to that community. People that are aspiring to be in those positions have someone that they can go to as a mentor, so to say, and be able to just network and share different resources. I think that part is so key. When you don't have access to that kind of person or those kind of people, that's when it becomes really difficult, because you're basically just searching through LinkedIn and trying to see what jobs come up, but you have no way of actually getting in. If you haven't had leadership capabilities before or responsibilities, you're at a loss already. So it's really trying to put yourself with those people that have had that experience, learn from what they've done, and then be able to transition that in your role to get there. I think when you look at where people are now in their career and where they want to get to, a lot of people particularly have strong dreams and aspirations, but they don't know how to quite articulate that to get to that point of, right, I actually deserve to be in this role. A lot of people sell themselves short based on the job description. You don't have to tick every single box. That's what potential is for. You will tick some of the boxes and the rest you'll start to progress in, but you need to showcase the potential that you do have, as well as the skills that you can bring to the table in terms of added value.
That's a great answer. I completely agree with it. I haven't got much more to add. I think networking is super important. Make sure that you are visible. Make sure that you know people or get to know people who are in the rooms that you want to be in. Find yourself sponsors, find yourself allies, and also make sure that you're going into areas where you actually can add value, or you can see a space where your uniqueness can add value. I think that's another thing as well, making sure that you're positioning yourself in the right place.
Just a bit of a rogue sidestep question, which we didn't actually prepare for, but as we are in this space and we are in a tech conference, and you mentioned networking, I guess from maybe your own experience, what is actually good networking in terms of making a connection but taking it forward?
I think that's a great question. I think there's no right or wrong way to network. I think everyone has a different level of comfort in terms of approaching people that haven't met, but I think it's always best to have a clear idea of who you are, what it is that you bring, and also what it is that you're looking for. Not every person that you meet will be a connection, that's great, but there's no wasted time spent with anyone, that's my opinion. So even if you don't get something out of the conversation, maybe try and give something back. Try and find out and be honest about what it is that you're looking for. I think sometimes it's, in our space, it can be really common for us to kind of shrink ourselves and not be really bold and clear about what it is that you're looking for, because if that person can't help you, maybe they know someone who can. So try and add value, try and give something, even if you're not going to get it, and be clear about what it is that you're looking for.
Yeah, completely agree. I think my rule is very simple. If you don't ask, you don't get. If you don't come and chat to me, you're not going to know about me. It's as simple as that. Be brave, put yourself out there. Most people actually do want to help you. They just don't necessarily know how to help you because you haven't articulated what you actually need from them. But again, it's like you said, it's a two-way street. Be able to give something back, showcase where you can add value to that person as well. It might not necessarily be for now. It could be 6 months down the line, 12 months down the line. Every network that you make really helps.
And as we are all recruiters here on this stage, we're kind of talking to job seekers pretty much on the daily that are looking to either pivot into something new or kind of progress their careers as well. I guess, how have you seen maybe the best approaches people have taken to build a relationship with you? So even if the role maybe that they're trying to go for right now isn't the best fit or doesn't just work out, like you still keep them in mind for future opportunities. Like what have you seen work well?
I think people that are very personable, people that genuinely show an interest for that industry, for that particular job role, for the type of company as well. I've had people that I've not spoken to for 3-4 years just reach out to me on WhatsApp out of the blue, and it's a nice feeling when they actually remember you for the service that you've given them, but also just being able to stay in touch and just be very genuine. It doesn't have to necessarily be about work. It could just be, let's just have a catch up. I'll give you an example. I had an engineer that I placed probably about 4 years ago. We're almost like best friends. And honestly, if you knew me and my background, I came from football. Tech, I knew nothing about. When I joined them, people were throwing all these tech words at me. I was confused as hell. So when I get there now, I'm speaking to people, and we're from two different backgrounds completely. Like, you're tech, I'm football. But where we are now, we're like this, and it's just because he literally took the time to get to know me as a person. I then done the same and invested back into him. From that, I've been able to help him in other areas in progressing his career. So I don't think it necessarily has to be so linear in terms of, right, you're a recruiter, you can help me get a job. Yes, I can, but actually build a personal connection. We're not just gatekeepers to roles. We're actually here to support you. Candidate experience for me is the most important thing. You might not be a hire for now, you might be for a later date, but we need to have that connection first for me to be actually in a position where I can remember you for the attributes that you have in terms of skills, but also the kind of personality. Culture fit is a massive in every company. You want to hire people that can add value. If you can be as personable as you can with me, that already puts you a step above everybody else.
I completely agree, and I think to add, recruiters are always looking to set everyone up for success. And I think when you build a relationship with a recruiter, you get to show who you are, what it is that you can do. And I think, when I'm hiring anybody, and I have some great candidates, and I really think that they would be good for a different team. It might not work out today, but for a different team, they would absolutely fly, they'd be super successful. And I think making sure that you stay in contact and have that relationship will put you in pole position for next time. And I think to cover the point about pivoting or maybe in a slightly different type of role, I recently hired an observability engineer, and this person came from a marketing, events, they worked in nightclubs and all these different things. And they really spent some time with me to explain who they are as a person and how they can bring a unique perspective. And that perspective was they're super personable. They're somebody who can be put in a room or put in a space with people they don't know and make connections and make things happen. And engineering is tough, tech can be tough, and they brought a different type of energy that wasn't normally seen by the rest of the team. On top of that, they built a resume that had open source projects, they had personal projects, they had all kind of relevant skills to back up that personality and the warmth that they brought to the room. So I think it is possible, and when you build that relationship with your recruiter, those two things, they get married.
Exactly. And I think what I would add to that as well is, even from my lens where I work in agency recruitment and I kind of build relationships for the long term, I think one thing that the candidates really benefit from is by having that personal relationship. I feel like I feel more like attached, not attached, I guess, like a better relationship with them, but I go harder to bat for them when the feedback comes back and maybe there's something that the company is questioning about. Be like, because I know the person and I know their skill set, we go back and we can bat for you a bit harder and maybe see like you might have missed this or that. And it's one of those things that's kind of like really good about kind of using a recruiter or working with a recruiter and letting them know a bit more about you, because then it's like you can show them the full picture, show them who you are entirely, where then they can add to the conversation when it's with that hiring manager that you've had half an hour with, who may not have seen all those different sides. And before we wrap up as well, I was going to ask you both, for sort of candidates, job seekers at the moment that are kind of looking at their next opportunity, I guess what should they be thinking about when it comes to, if it's like roles of leadership or just roles in general, to kind of put the best foot forward and kind of make an impact in the hiring process?
So I think the main thing is to really just show your work. I think that's the best thing. Show your work and show yourself. Show your impact, the things that you've done, the things that you're interested in, and spend time crafting that story.
Yeah, completely agree. I think going back to the successful and significance part, showcase when you can be successful, what you have done, but also show the impact you've had along with other people and the wider business. People buy into people. If you can showcase that through your CV, through your personality, you have a very strong chance of getting there. I think the more you can do around that, again, helps with your employer branding as well. You want to really put yourself out there as a champion of the brand. That's one of the things that I always look for when I'm speaking with people that have done the extra research into the company and almost position themselves as if they work there. For example, during the interview process, it's not a case of, right, I work for, say, Tesco, I've done X, Y, Z, but then stop there. It's, okay, I work for Tesco, I've done X, Y, Z, but if I was at Treatwell, I would do A, B, C. So automatically I'm thinking, oh, you work here already, no problem. It's just that kind of vibe, so I think that tends to work really well.
Perfect. And final question, not even a question, I guess a little plug. Are any of you guys hiring for any of these people?
We're always hiring, always hiring.
What kind of roles?
Come and find me after and I'll let you know. Sales and marketing, tech, engineering products, data, cyber, we're hiring consistently.
At the moment, we're not hiring in the UK, but if anyone wants any advice about their career, how to move forward, how to be more visible to employers, please come and find me.
Perfect. And you can find also us. We do have a stand. It's by that side over there. If you go next to like Citibank, you can find us and talk to us, and we'll be here for the rest of the day as well. So thank you very much, everyone, and hope you enjoyed this conversation as well.